Everyone calls it the First Amendment. They think it was born first. It wasn't. It was a replacement part for a system that almost didn't start. I'm Bill from the Hill, and today we're breaking down the First Amendment. You will want to watch to the end, as some of the images are extremely funny and should give you a good laugh. So here we go.
The first was third, rejected. The evidence is right here. Deleted amendments. This changes everything. Indeed.
Yeah, Capitol Hill evidence, Bill from the Hill. Walk the halls of power, know the whole damn game. Bureaucratic assassin on the federal scene. Insider intake cutting through the static and the fear. Got the inside track on the evidence trail. Use Occam's razor, cut through the veil. Hey! Capitol Hill evidence. We're looking for truth in a complicated place. It's Bill from the Hill laying down the whole case. Yeah! Bill from the Hill! This is the deal!
George Mason refused to sign the Constitution. Mason was the one who created the Virginia Declaration of Rights, adopted on June 12, 1776. He famously said he'd sooner chop off his right hand than sign a document that didn't protect the people. He was by far James Madison's loudest enemy, and they were not really friendly with one another at all.
Just let me do what I do. Just calm down, you two.
Thomas Jefferson, who wrote the Declaration of Independence, was the bridge. He wrote to Madison from France. He called for a Bill of Rights, which is what the people were entitled to have against every government on earth. He sided with Mason's principles to force Madison's hand. As Virginians, they stick together.
A Bill of Rights is what the people are entitled to.
Damn Virginians.
When Madison finally gave in to the pressure in 1789, he still didn't put our freedoms first. He put congressional size, and more importantly, he cared about congressional pay. It's always been about the money. Our rights were relegated to Article the 3rd.
I think you are wrong.
Madison took Mason's rights of conscience and put them in the draft. He knew he had to satisfy the man he just spent 2 years fighting. It was the original code for your mind. But the Senate gutted it. They found conscience too broad and too dangerous to manage. They were terrified of a right that gave the individual too much power over the state. They deleted the heart of the machine from Madison. To get it passed, they had to fuse 5 separate rights into one 45-word sentence. They turned the philosophy of conscience into a mechanical compromise. This is because as a government, they could not regulate a person's conscience. However, they could regulate the free exercise thereof, which was the ultimate compromise to keep all sides happy. The states conducted the audit. They rejected the first 2 articles. They wouldn't touch the house size or the pay scales. They failed to get the votes. The states were not putting up with any tomfoolery. By December 1791, Article the 3rd was the only one left at the top. It was promoted to the First Amendment by default. It was the survivor of a broken list. Ironically, it makes more sense that the people should have outweighed the House and the Senate anyway. Even though at the time we couldn't elect our president or members of the Senate. Instead, as per the terms of an unamended Constitution, each elector was permitted 2 votes for president, with a majority of the whole number of electors appointed necessary to elect a president. Of the 69 participating electors, each one cast a 1 vote for Washington, who was elected president. Here are our rights under the First Amendment. It starts with freedom of religion, or also known as freedom from religion. They gave us options which we could choose to worship or not to. Freedom of speech, my personal favorite. Freedom of speech, which includes spoken, written, and symbolic expressions against government restrictions. It safeguards the right to hold unpopular views, to protest peacefully, use offensive words for political messages, and even the right to not speak at all. You cannot use true threats or fighting words. Basically, threats of physical harm are not protected. Defamation, either libel or slander, are also not protected. The First Amendment's freedom of the press protects the rights of journalists, publishers, and citizens to investigate, report, and publish information, opinions, and ideas without government censorship, control, or prior restraint. It ensures a free media can hold government accountable, applying it to print, broadcast, and online media. The right to assembly and petition is one that has been interpreted by modern Supreme Courts as an expansion of the core freedom of expression. Assembly extends freedom of speech to groups rather than simply individuals, as the phrasing freedom of speech originally implied in the First Amendment. Hopefully you learned something about the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed putting it together. Be sure to like and subscribe. Our next one is all about the Second Amendment, meaning the guns are out. I'm Bill from the Hill. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Come on, like and share this right now. Comment and subscribe. Don't miss out.